This is my advanced watercolor painting class. This round this 6-week class, I'm going to be talking about trees and landscapes. Um, when I was looking through all my photographs, I had about 8 images that were possibles, and I was having a dreadful time deciding, and I'm still not totally decided, but I went through and I did thumbnail sketches of all of them and narrowed it down to 4, which I will be showing you very shortly. I know that you guys are, I'm encouraging you all to work from your own photographs if you can, but you can use mine if you like. So today I will be showing you 4 photographs. We'll talk about why we would paint any one of them, talk about design elements, color, what's exciting about it, and then I'm going to let you guys help me decide which of those 4 we're going to start with. If we have time in the 6 weeks, we might paint a second demo, but I'm not sure because I like to work at it fairly slowly. So anyway, the next step of this is I will put you onto a camera that shows my desktop, and you'll be able to see the images that I'm talking about. These are my 4 photographs that I am contemplating doing our demos this time with. For sure I can do 1. I'm not sure if I can do 2. We'll just have to see. So let's go over them and why I picked these 4 out of the ones that I have. Let's start, where do we want to start? Let's start with what I did to sort of decide how to even pick these out of my bigger group. And that's that I went through and I did what I call a thumbnail sketch of each of these. And what I was wanting to see in these thumbnail sketches, I could have done yet another set of thumbnail sketches that had color in them, but these are the black and white ones. And so what I wanted to see was the big shapes. What big shapes are in here and how are those big shapes working in the photograph, and how can I then maybe alter them to make a little bit more exciting painting than what the photograph is. So let's start with our photograph up here in the upper left. I'm going to just move these others out of the way for now so that we can only be looking at one at a time. So my first piece here is an orchard in springtime, a row of peach trees. Now what I love about this photograph are the colors. I love the blue, I love this row of pink, I love the black against the pink, and I love this little bit of green. But what I don't love about this photograph is that it just feels a little blah. There's just not enough, I'm not sure, not enough excitement with it. So then the question becomes, what to me is the most important part about this, and how do I then emphasize that a little bit further? So I like this blue mountain and I like the pink trees up next to it. And so what I feel I would need to do with this is to make my mountains bigger and make my trees bigger and maybe cut down on this front brown and green. So either crop this here or make these trees a little bit bigger. And my feeling is probably to make those trees a little bigger so they could be brought down into this a little further. Let those branches that go up in there come down a little further and just bring all of those trees down here a little further into this. And then have that brown that's underneath of those trees, you know, come out here a little bit further, and then this become my row of green. So my row of green would be over here rather than there. So they would move this over here. So this would be green. And it would still have that beautiful line back into almost 0 back there, but maybe go off to the side just a little bit. So then those trees would come out, and then make that mountain, instead of being here, take the mountain up halfway further up into that sky so that we've got a bigger blue mountain. So I think with that, this could be a quite interesting piece. So what I love is pink trees and blue mountain. So those are the two items that I need to be keeping in my mind as I develop this, because it's very easy to get lost in detail and lose track of what it was that you truly loved about a piece and that you wanted to have show. Okay, so that's that one. This is another piece that I'm not sure how well it's going to be showing for you. My first printing of this was even a darker version, and I went into Photoshop and I lightened up that lower area more. But what I truly loved about this photograph was this feeling of the foggy morning. This is a photograph that I took in Alaska. The fireweed was in bloom all through here, so there's this red and green combination. In bright sunlight, this is a little more of a purple tone, but in this light in the morning, it becomes this red. I loved how the fog rolled between these mountains back here, and I liked the feeling of these trees cutting through the scene. So we have a horizontal and vertical elements to this that I find really quite attractive. I would need to play more because it still feels a little too dark in this foreground. I think it needs to be played a little more and maybe not be quite so dark, but I do like the darkness of these trees coming up in here. I might also consider making the mountains in the background come up even just a little higher, and then in the original photograph these clouds had a little more color in them. So those were something that could be done. It's the thumbnail. You can see that I'm sort of picking up some of those same things. This hammock, we want to make sure it's not too strong, but it's a very important element, and it really does become sort of the center of interest in many ways. There's some other elements in this photograph that can be totally ignored, don't need them. They're not important, but we would want to play with this pattern of red and green in this foreground, and then this feeling of fog as it rolls down in through here. So those would be very important elements. So the important elements are fog and flowers and trees. Those trees running up through it. So those are our important elements there. Now this photograph, I've had this as my desktop saver, and I loved the majestic feeling of the trees going up into the sky. I love the feeling of sunlight in this. I like the crisp blue sky. I like the feeling of movement through the light in the grasses in here. I do not like this road. It's too strong. It's too much over into one side. And so if I were going to paint this, what I did in my sketch is that I moved the road over and I made it smaller so it became more of a pathway. So it would come over in this area here and run between those two trees instead of running off into this one side. Other than that, I very much like what's here. It's possible that these hills in the background could be made very slightly higher if we wanted. That might be interesting to take them up a little bit. I see there's one little white cloud there. That might be something interesting too. But this feeling of early spring, if anybody's lived in California, you know that springtime is green time. The rest of the year it's all brown, and these leaves on the oak trees will turn more of a gray-green as the season goes on. But that early spring when they first come out is a beautiful, fresh little green color. So that's going to be important. So we're going to have green, blue sky, and sunlight. Those are important things. Let's see, green trees. Let's just say trees. Okay, so that's what's working on that. Let's just a tiny bit more about the structure of this. Once again, we have some horizontal pieces running through here. We have some verticals that sort of move out and play through there. We would have a diagonal with this, getting the road more diagonal I think would work better through there. The other nice thing that makes this feeling of sunlight happening is this light that runs through the trees and on down into here, through that tree and on down into here, this lightness of this grass. So you get at least 3 pathways of light coming into this piece and working its way around. And I think if we move the pathway over, this beautiful arch between these two trees will be emphasized even more, which is another thing that I very much like about this. Okay. And number 4 is a view from Mount Shasta. I took this photograph and reversed it from what I had originally taken. Originally, it would have been this sloping the other direction here. I found that it blocked me too much to have that heavy dark stuff over on the right hand side. It needed to be here on the left, and then our eye can move and flow in through here. I like it much better reversed. Now I also am feeling like there's too much foreground. The foreground isn't really giving me much, getting me excited very much. So I'm feeling like I really want to crop this down a little further. And so I think if we cropped it into here, and let me just get another ruler on here, and then a little bit off this back side here, I think it's going to make a little stronger picture. We now have maybe 1/4 of it being this foreground and 3/4 being this blue area, and then the blue area is broken up into a third, so 2/3, 1/3, and it's much more of a pleasing combination. And then I like how these trees cut up and through that blue, and we have a couple of little trees here in the foreground that are going to sort of come through. It's a very simple composition. A nice big shape of a triangle here, nice big shape of the mountains in the back, a nice beautiful shape of clear blue sky that's graded from dark to light as it sort of softens into those mountains. And then the trees are almost silhouette, but not quite. We've got some light coming through them. So a fairly simple. We might be able to add some flowers into this front or something to give it a little bit more interest. The shadows in these rocks are going to be an interesting thing too to play with. So that's piece number 4. And so let me just, things that we like, blue sky, trees, and mountains. Okay. So those are the 4 pieces. I'm going to get some votes from you guys, and we'll decide which one to tackle first. If we have enough time, it depends on how quickly I paint on this, we might be able to do 2 of them. So anyway, we'll talk to you about what you like.